Everybody's nice.
Thank you.
Welcome to the first at-large Cherokee Nation Candidates Forum. My name is Jess Sixkiller, Sr. I'm pleased to be asked to be the moderator for today. I'm of the Bird clan on my mother's side, and the Wolf clan on my dad's side. My family and I have lived in the valley here for the last 40 plus years. But I was born into the Taylor community, south of Jay, Oklahoma, where I spent my early childhood. And many days I wished I could still be there, hunting, fishing, and catching crawdads on Beatty's Creek. As your moderator today, it's my duty to be the go-between, perhaps the diplomat, or the arbitrator, if you will, to keep the process moving in balance. Historically, Cherokees have taken their politics quite seriously. But today, there will be no name calling, no cat calls, no throwing of things.
How about fisticuffs?
Or as the old traditional citizens used to do, turn their chairs around backwards to the speaker. There is an evaluation form for that. We hope that you will complete it. It has nothing to do with who you vote for, but it has to do with helping us determine how well we're doing, and hopefully it'll be used in the future to improve on the forums that we may have in the future. It's my understanding we have guests from Desert Cherokees here today. You gentlemen, you are?
Larry Saunders.
Larry Saunders. He's with the Desert Cherokees of Tucson, and he's a co-chair of their organization. Jett, thank you for coming. We also have just recently had an election among our organization, the Valleys and Sun Cherokees. And they're represented today, of course, you heard Linda Willard, who is our chairperson. The vice chairperson, Tanya Armendariz, is not here.
Not as of today.
Okay.
I didn't give you the new list?
Okay.
You want me to tell you? How about if I write it down and you can go ahead and then you can go back?
Okay. We've changed the officers apparently. As we were having lunch, they were caucusing. I'll get back to that. To our knowledge, the Cherokee Nation at-large constituency in Arizona numbers around 4,000. It is spread throughout the state. While the membership in our two organizations, the Desert of the Sun and the Valley of the Sun Cherokees, is growing, we do not represent all of those folks. The effort put forth by the candidates to be here today is very, very important, and will help us boost our visibility. We're here to meet and to hear the vision and plans of the candidates. They are running for a soon-to-be vacant at-large council seat. Not all candidates could join us. Some were unable to attend because they had other commitments, and some we simply did not get a response from. But it's my understanding there are 10 candidates for the one at-large seat. 10 candidates running for one seat makes a statement. It is an important seat. Or employment in their area is really bad. One candidate will become our council person, representing our interests and our concerns on and with the Cherokee Nation Council. The candidate who is elected will join Councilman Jack Baker as our representative. Needless to say, we welcome your presence, candidates, and are excited to hear your plans and visions that you will share. These proceedings will be recorded and shared with other at-large organizations throughout the country, of which there are 22, I understand. We hope to have broader candidate participation in future elections. Today's format. In the basket here, we have numbers 1 through 5. And we're going to ask the candidates who are here to draw a number. And the person who draws number 1 obviously will speak first to the question. They will be followed in turn by number 2, number 3, and so on. Now listen closely. The candidates holding number 2 will address the second question first, and followed by 3, 4, 5, and 1. Candidate number 3, holding the third, number 3, will be addressing the third question first, followed by numbers 4, 5, 1, and 3, 2 and 3. All candidates will address each question. This rotation is to assure candidates are treated equally and no one ends up always first or always last. Each will introduce themselves as they come up to speak, and we've allotted a minute for that. We have a timekeeper who will hold up a card whenever your minute is up for that. However, if there are experiences that you wish to share that exceed that minute, please feel free to do so. However, it will cut into your 3 minutes for the address of the questions you're asked to answer. The timekeeper will hold up a yellow card at 2 minutes. Timekeeper, could you put the card up? I think that's so neat. You see what you did there? And she'll hold up a red card at 3 minutes. So after which she will get the hook out. After the rotation, each candidate will be asked to answer a question drawn from the basket, which is stretched down there. And these are the questions that have been and will be submitted by the audience here today as you go through your day. And on each table is a little basket that has some cards in it that you can write your questions. When you write your question on it, then put it in that basket there. These, by the way, are Cherokee baskets. Please be aware of the timekeeper's alert, especially when she holds up the yellow sign. At this point, the candidate has 1 minute to wrap up their answer. The Valley of the Sun Cherokee Council and with the concurrence of the Desert Cherokees Council, developed the questions to be addressed by the candidates today. These questions will be put up on the screen. Ta-da, there they are. The questions in the basket, that basket down there, will be drawn at random after we've gone through the 5 questions that we have for the candidates. The council wanted to try to do 2 things here. One is to give a list of the pre-developed questions so they can have a chance to think about them, come up with some ideas and thoughts about the plans and issues. And the other is that give the candidates an opportunity to research it. Each candidate has now had time to form an opinion about the 5 questions they have, and that they would address if they're elected. Please know that these questions are a very small percentage of our concerns. It is important to note the council person representing the 15 districts within the Cherokee jurisdiction have an average of 7,100 constituents each. Councilman Baker, who is our at-large council, and the incoming at-large council person, whoever gets elected, will represent over 200,000 citizens together. The 15 district councilmen at home can travel across their districts within an hour or two, perhaps even minutes. The at-large council person must travel throughout the country. And you will find we're not an easy bunch to represent, other than those of us in Arizona. We're pretty tough. So, with that, I'd like to ask the candidates to come up and pick a number. Whoever wants to go first is fine.
I need to ask a question on this question, please.
Yes.
You want our names on the questions? Or
No, no need names, no. Just as long as it's readable.
Unless it's really hostile, then we want to know who you are.
Can we ask candidates to come please be seated? Yes, Pam, you gotta come back up. Would you number one?
We're just us at-large citizens, the 200,000 or so that live away from the Cherokee jurisdiction. We're assuming that probably not more than 2 months from the election, the winning panel council person will know the names and addresses of all of us. Okay. Okay, the person drawing the first question was Deb Reed, and we will ask her to come up and respond to the first question. What do you think the issues are to at-large citizens of the Cherokee Nation? How did you identify these issues? And she then will be followed by Jett, Benjamin McKee, Pam, and Tommy Jones. Pam, what's your last name? Fox. Okay. Yes. You just need to do that once. This one. Right.
For each of the candidates, whenever you do answer the questions, if you wouldn't mind using the microphone, we do want to make sure that it gets picked up on for the audio and the video.
Okay, should I introduce myself first?
Yes.
And this is a 1 minute?
Yes, ma'am.
1 minute, yep.
Okay. My name is Deb Reed. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm the daughter of Holly and Jesse Reed. My mother is a full-blood native speaker, and we are the long-haired clan. We are direct descendants of Sequoia guests, and my grandfather is the artist Cecil Dick. And I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has some paintings at the Heard Museum here in Phoenix, so, and several other museums throughout the country. He's my mother's father, and yeah, that was. Now that I know who he is, it was quite a privilege to be his granddaughter. You know, growing up, you don't know who people really are until later, and you realize what an incredibly talented person he was. And I'm blessed to have one of his original community. I really appreciate Jess, because you really brought one of the best parts of Cherokee culture back for me in this election, which is sense of humor. It seems like during election time, nobody has a sense of humor, so I really appreciate that. I'm an attorney in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've worked internationally for a long time, and then I came back to Oklahoma and worked for the businesses of Cherokee Nation. I worked for Cherokee Nation businesses, and while I went to law school, and now I'm in private practice in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my time is up. So I want to say thank you again, and I will be back in a moment.
You go on with the question.
Oh,
No, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the first question is, what do you think the issues are at the large citizens of Cherokee Nation? How do you identify those questions or issues?
is that okay?
Ron, do you have it up?
Yeah, I just put it up there.
Okay.
Okay, the issues to at-large citizens of the Cherokee Nation. I think the number one issue I found would be maintaining our cultural identity as Cherokee people, no matter where we are in the world. I've experienced that personally because I lived outside of the United States between 8 and 10 years. I worked in Central Asia and the Middle East for a long time. And so I can personally identify with that issue. I've also traveled throughout the United States since last September, asking people different questions and listening. And I found out that healthcare, of course, is a big issue, and also access to scholarship money, which I saw that we have access right now, which is great. There's a $9,000 scholarship that recently became available to at-large citizens, and I was so happy to hear about that. And I really have been blessed to be able to travel like this and talk to the citizens of the Cherokee Nation, because I found that my concerns, because I'm an at-large citizen, are reflected in everyone I've met. And we have diverse and broad backgrounds, but our issues kind of unite us, because as Cherokee citizens, we have this great history and culture behind us, and we really want to maintain that. And I think these communities are a great way to do that. And I've heard a lot of people talk about how difficult it is to live just outside the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. And I know that's not something that this group can relate to, but I can relate to that. So I've been at large as far away as Central Asia and the Middle East, and I've been at large as far as a 30-minute drive across town, or maybe even just a 20-minute drive across town. And today I'm an active member of the Tulsa Cherokee Community Organization, which is one of the organizations right on the boundaries, and it meets just across the boundary within the Cherokee Nation. But a lot of our members are at large as well, so I must say that's quite a privilege. There are a lot of other issues that have been voiced to me. I think at-large citizens deserve to have their phone calls returned, their emails returned. Communication is a very big issue, and that is also something that I can identify with, and I would like to address as well. So there's my caution sign, and I'm okay with that, and I appreciate that, because I can sure get carried away. I tell you, I have really enjoyed visiting. I've been to Chicago, to talk to Cherokees in Washington, D.C., to California and several different cities. This is my second time to the Phoenix area, of course in New Mexico, in the Albuquerque area, Wichita, Kansas City, Dallas, Texas. I've been in touch with people in the Houston, Texas area, and I've been, of course, in touch with people right around the Tulsa and Muskogee area, which is, again, people who they live right outside the boundaries, so that there's a lot of services that they can't have access to. But maybe somebody across the street can, and that's been frustrating to many. I was contacted recently by an at-large citizen who had a relative pass away, and he lived on the wrong side of the river to have his funeral paid for, and it was really, really tragic. And I hope we can develop a solution to it. Anyway, thank you very much. I'll cut myself off now and pass it on to candidate number 2, Jett.
Thank you, Deb. Well, hello everyone. I'm Shane Jett from Oklahoma. I grew up in Tecumseh. My wife is here with me. Met her down the deep, deep south from Brazil when I lived there and worked for 2 years. And Esther is waving energetically. Esther is my middle child. Raquel is my oldest daughter. And then Sarah is here, and she is 5 months old, and she's thrilled to be anywhere within about a 5-foot radius of mommy. So we're delighted to be here. We made a road trip of it, and we've seen the Grand Canyon, and we went to the crater yesterday, and we just enjoyed fellowship, and we met the curator at the crater, and guess what? She's a Cherokee, married to a Cherokee, and I said, well, you need to be here tomorrow for this event. There's Cherokees all over the United States, and we have been forced by the federal government to live up in 14 counties in the northeastern part of Oklahoma, but that's not originally where our territory was. It was where we were forced to be. The rest of us are living and fulfilling our dreams as Cherokee citizens, and we belong to the Cherokee Nation. The Cherokee Nation belongs to us, and we're proud to be Cherokee. But when I grew up 2 hours from Cherokee Nation in Tecumseh, Oklahoma, I didn't know what it was to mean to be Cherokee. I had a grandmother who was Cherokee, and I didn't know that what she was teaching me was Cherokee practices. I just thought, my grandmother is unusual. And are we over? Oh my goodness. I'm a former state legislator. I talk a lot. I'm a Navy officer, and apparently I get enthusiastic about talking to people about my heritage. So I'm happy to answer the question. I believe question number 1 is, what do you think of issues at large, citizens of the Cherokee Nation? How do you identify with these issues? Well, I guess my introduction kind of blended into that. We want to connect with our people, we want to connect with our culture, we want to connect with our tribe back home, and we want to feel like we're welcome when we're there. And we also want to feel like we belong and they know we belong, no matter if we live in Tecumseh, Oklahoma, or Phoenix, or Tucson, or LA, or in Brazil where I used to live, or whenever I met with the ambassador, who is Keith Harper, who was appointed by Barack Obama in Geneva, Switzerland. Cherokees are Cherokee no matter where they live, and they need to feel connected and they need to feel like they belong. If I were elected, one of the main things I would focus on is connecting with Cherokees everywhere in the United States, using all the technology we have available, and also using the gasoline and the rubber on the cars to get and meet at the various satellite areas. This is what needs to happen. We have access to Facebook. This community has a nice Facebook community. The Desert Cherokees have one. There are 22. I didn't know existed until I got ready to run. I said, wow, there's a lot of us out there, and we're starting to get organized. I would like to take the database of the entire Cherokee Nation and see if there are other locations that are logically a place to put these at-large satellite communities, because there's a cluster in the map across the United States. Having more of these so more Cherokees can connect with each other, and we can be a uniform voice and be able to communicate back to Cherokee Nation. There are text messaging that can be done automatically that you can sign up for, so that you can get notifications for meetings coming up for reminders. There's automated calls that you get, like the first responders in Tecumseh, Oklahoma. If there's a tornado coming up and you've signed up, you can get a really quick text message saying, hey, this is coming up, or your pastor at your local church, if you sign up for it, can send a text message reminding you of Easter Sunday event. So we could be doing the same thing. There's technology available, email blast, telephone, automated telephone calls for those who sign up for it. These are ways for us to get connected and to know what's going on in our communities. And I believe as an at-large legislator, it's important that every technology available to the world should be made available to our Cherokee community, so we can remain connected and in touch with each other. And I have the yellow card. How many minutes, seconds do I have after yellow?
Caution is 1 minute.
Very good. So, yellow. All right, I'll see the rest of my time over to number 3.
All the way to the last second.
Thank you, Shane.
Benjamin McKee.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, strangers. Don't be a stranger when I leave here. We all be one.
We'll get a little bit closer.
All right, how's this sound?
A little
Better?
closer. There.
All right. My name is Benjamin Gatorhawk McKee. I was born in Collett, Oklahoma in 1934. Then we migrated to Stillwell, Oklahoma. Then we migrated to Tulsa, not Tulsa, but Tulsa, and then up to Tulsa. But times were so hard back then, after the war, Second War, that is, the big war. My father went back into service, and I became an Army brat. But as I got older, things got tougher. But anyway, I got it. I'm here. I made it. But now, I own a farm, 2 farms, but they're Gatorhawk farms. And I grow, with God's help, and I raise ice rhizomes, and I sell those to anybody that wants to buy them. Doesn't matter who they are. If they want to buy them for the ice, well, they can buy one. Most generally, I give some of them away. I'm not a mercenary. Okay, now do I speak up on this here?
Yes.
Okay, what do you think the issues are at large citizens of the Cherokee Nation? Well, I'm gonna say, the first part of it, I think is parity, P-A-R-I-T-Y, parity. You know what parity is? Anybody? Somebody, I'm gonna use my time. What is parity?
It's inequality.
Equal. Okay, how do you identify these issues? Parity, we're not equal in anything that our brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, fathers, and our relatives are getting at the Cherokee Nation at present. We're out here like step people. And it's not parity. We need to have health, we need to have wealth, we need to have everything they have at the nation. We should have the equal part of it. Now, I'm going to say, there is not anything equal, even to the scale of justice. It goes up, down this way. But we can be so close, we'll all be happy, and we'll be off that boil, or we'll be off that thorn that's in our foot. We'll have health, wealth, and happiness, to the point where that we can say we're Cherokees just like our brothers and sisters of the Cherokee Nation. So, that's all I'm going to say about the first question here. And I thank you for your time. You're beautiful people.
Thank you.
Pam Fox.
Hello, my name is Pam Fox. I was born and raised in Bakersfield, California, where I have lived for most of my life. I have lived outside of Bakersfield for short periods of time. For instance, I lived in a rural mountain community for 8 years in the Kern River Valley, and I've lived in Ely, Nevada, and I've lived in the Los Angeles area. I am widowed and also currently divorced. I have 4 children and 7 grandchildren. 2 are here today. They live here in Phoenix, Zach and Lauren. So I'm really blessed in that regard. Currently, I am a professor at California State University, where I lecture English composition, critical thinking, and critical writing courses. And I'm also a professor at Bakersfield College, where I teach literature and composition. And I have my degrees in history with an emphasis on Cherokee history, and in English with an emphasis on Cherokee literature. My parents are Bob and Carmelita York. My father's deceased, and my Cherokee grandfather is Sequoia Cootie, and he's from Sixkiller, Oklahoma, and he moved the family to Bakersfield in 1940. So I'm going to go ahead and address question number 1. And I have learned from talking to many Cherokees who live at large, and from personal experience, that the issues have already been addressed, and they are clearly the same. The issue of identity, the issue of having a better understanding of Cherokee history, culture, and access to Cherokee language classes. I've learned that healthcare, which varies from state to state, and housing, which varies from state to state, are issues that people have questions about. I've already talked to people about the HUD 184 loan for American Indians. Scholarship access and parity is an issue for at-large citizens, and of course we now have the new scholarship available to us. One thing that came to light recently at an event is that at-large Cherokees do really want to be connected with other at-large citizens, and of course with citizens who live in the nation. And I think that if they are better communicated, better connected with better communication, that they will be able to be better informed and therefore better voters. And so that is a real issue to them. And it's been suggested that we develop and implement inter-community gatherings, maybe one a year or one every other year, where all of the at-large communities organize these events, and all at-large citizens are invited, and citizens of the nation, and we can get together and communicate our concerns to one another and develop relationships and develop a broader sense of community. So because quite a number of citizens have proposed this idea, I'm going to bring it forward as a possibility. And because we represent such a large geographical area, I think we have to have several of these inter-community gatherings. But whatever we can do is a start where we can actually become acquainted with more of our at-large citizens. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Tommy Jones from Jones, Oklahoma. I picked up some allergies in Oklahoma this last week, so I'm going to be a little, I might sound younger than I am, and I'm 30 because that's one of the questions I get asked all the time. So yeah, from Jones, Oklahoma. My people are from Muskogee area. My father's side is the Cherokee side, and that dates back there quite a while. But I went to school in Oklahoma City University, received 2 bachelor's degrees, one in biology, one in Spanish. Then I went to Hawaii, received a master's in tropical conservation biology and environmental science. And now I'm at the University of Arizona finishing a PhD in renewable, natural resources studies and American Indian studies. And so I'm looking at renewable energy development on tribal lands. And that is where my work comes in. I work for the Tribal Energy Program for the Sandia National Labs out of Albuquerque. And what they do is a community-based technical assistance to go out to places and see what the energy needs are and find ways that renewable energy can help with that. And so it's been very fulfilling. And the reason why I have this interest is I grew up in poverty, and there were many times I was without energy, without water, and I don't want my children to grow up that way, and I want to give those who want energy the ability to have it. And so it's really been an exciting experience. So that's me. The first question, so I've traveled a lot the last few months, and when I first started out, I started thinking, I have to read everything that I've written, I have to brush up on everything. But people don't want to hear my empty promises, they want to be heard. And that's, I think, the big thing that I've learned from this. And so the acknowledgement, voice being heard, I think this acknowledgement of 2/3 of Cherokee Nation lives outside of the jurisdiction, that holds some weight. But we do not have equal representation on council. I'm not saying we reformat council, but I think that there's new solutions that we can find to meet the needs that people have. One of the things that I hear the most is insufficient health care. I lived in Phoenix up until about a year ago. I didn't know this Native Health Center was here. And I do know that IHS was there, and I spent actually probably half my childhood in the Citizen Potawatomi IHS waiting room. But there's what I think we can do with healthcare in particular is provide options for people. Like the Affordable Care Act, think what you want about the law, it is the law. And there are options for Native Americans with this for reduced or free health care. And putting information out there that's available for people to understand is important. I think particularly for people that are facing issues or have kids that they need to take care of. Like I said, I grew up going to IHS, and I find it was insufficient care. And there's a lot of things that I think that are available to help people out there. Let's see what all I have written down here. So there is a lot of people who bring up cultural connectivity to be closer to the nation. That starts from within, and I think from a lot of these communities, what I'm seeing, we have a sign when we came in here, how to introduce yourself in Cherokee. It starts here, and so saying that we need something from the outside is most likely, in my opinion, it's not going to happen. Taking money outside of the jurisdictional area is going to be contentious. We have 2 votes on council, so we have to find solutions from within. And I'm willing to come to each of these communities, share what each of the communities are doing, successes. I visited the Denver community. They have someone there teaching Cherokee in each of their meetings, and it's fulfilling. It's great. you leave there thinking, wow, I feel more connected. And I think that's something that we can all do within each of these communities. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Okay, question number 2. What are your top 5 goals you plan to achieve in your term? And how will at-large citizens be able to measure your output? And so this round, we're going to start with Shane, Ben, Pam, Tom, and Deb. So, Shane?
Thank you. So the top 5 goals to achieve as in the first 4 years if elected, I served for 6 years in the Oklahoma House of Representatives. And one thing I learned is you can't represent unless you know your people, you know your district. Well, I grew up in Pottawatomie County, so I knew the farmers. They helped raise me, and the school teachers, and everyone in the community. But in this area, this is, I think, my first time to Phoenix, and hopefully will not be my last. But one thing that I have to be able to do if I represent you is to know what your family goes through. A lot of things that you go through right here in Phoenix are the same things that are going through in Missouri, the same thing they're going through in Kansas, is wanting to be connected. The way to do that, and what I did as a House member in the Oklahoma House, is I sent out a survey asking the key questions. What is it that you need from your state representative? And I'd be one of the first things I'd want to do is put out a survey, send it out and coordinating with these communities, but also to everyone that's, and we have 25,000 registered voters, is to send out a survey saying, what do you need from Cherokee Nation? How can I help you be more connected with the Cherokee Nation? And get that input. And also communication information, what's your email, what's your telephone number, would you like to get automated text about events coming up in your community, these types of things. So I'll know how to reach out and how to connect. That's the one thing I want to do. The other thing is make sure that we have access to social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, all the social media, make sure that people are connected so that they know that there are 21 other satellite communities in the area. And so that if you're going on a family vacation, you can connect with Cherokees in those areas to know that we're out there. The other thing I would do is do a heavy registration campaign to get as many Cherokee voters that are eligible to vote, registered to vote, and understand the process. Here's the secret. Yes, we only have 2 votes on the council. Yes, 2/3 of the majority of Cherokees live outside of the Cherokee 14 areas we were forced to live in whenever the federal government pushed us out of our homelands. That's correct. So one of the things is that we have a disadvantage on how we can influence the rest of the Cherokee Nation. But one thing that we do have access to, and the possibility is, one of these 5 or one of the 10 candidates who are elected represent 2/3 of Cherokee Nation. What other elected position has that influence? And that's your chief. And it is very possible that you will have a strong influence at the executive branch, stronger than the others, simply because of the votes you can control out in the rest of Cherokee country. And I would make sure that, one, you knew that, and your neighbors who are not here, the Cherokees who are not here, know that, and be empowered by having information, holding their elected representatives accountable, the deputy chief, the chief, and make sure that they're engaged, informed, and ready to be a part of the Cherokee Nation. I've got a yellow tag up here. The other thing is making sure that the resources that we're accumulating, making sure that we generate wealth in Cherokee Nation by diversifying our portfolio. We've got heavily in gaming, and we've been diversify that more, so we have more resources to be able to reach out and bless those Cherokees who do not live in those 14 counties.
Okay, next up is Ben.
Okay, I'm gonna say, let me read. What are your top 5 goals you plan to achieve in your term? Brothers and sisters, there's a piece of granite stone out there about a block square. You're gonna give me a half a bushel of pins, straight pins, with the heads on them, and you're gonna give me a 1 pound mold. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna try to get you health, I'm gonna try to get you wealth, I'm gonna try to get you happiness, and everything else that you don't have that the Cherokee Nation has, that you want. So you want me to get this for you, and you give me a pack of pins with a head on it and a 1 pound mold. piece of granite out there. Well, I'm gonna chip. Next first year, I've got a sliver. I've got a sliver that long that's chipped off for your health care. All right, so we're gonna talk about health. Well, why don't we have health care just like the people in the Cherokee Nation have? They got good health care. But now, I know there's a lot of other Indian tribes out here that has as much as hospitals and wealth that we do in these different areas. Albuquerque has Hopi and Navajo and a much more I can't talk about. But then, to get this sliver back the first year, well, how am I going to do it? But I'll find out. Do you know, I'm going to ask any of my friends and neighbors here, what is the wealth? Well, first of all, they say we don't have the money to do all these different things with. Okay. Brothers and sisters, what do you think the Cherokee Nation is worth at present, net? How much, ma'am?
About $750 million.
Why can't we have some of that? Just a little bit of sliver of it, $3.98. So our elders, our senior citizens, so our young children can go to a decent hospital at will, not have to go to Telequal. Why can't we have an exchange program? But anyway, then the next year, if I'm your person that you want me to represent, I'm gonna knock another little chip off this block here. It's gonna be a little bitty piece. Then I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go to the Cherokee Nation, and I'll say, okay. How much more time do I have? Is that all of it?
You need to write a stamp on that sign.
But I have a lot of more pens than you gave me. I'll hammer on.
Okay, Pam?
So I want to address the issues that the Cherokee citizens have brought to my attention first. And those are the issues of a really strong desire, a need for language acquisition and opportunities to converse in Cherokee, a knowledge and understanding of Cherokee culture and history, a knowledge and understanding of the issues that concern all Cherokees so that we can be better informed voters and help our friends and our family back in the Cherokee Nation as well as at-large citizens. Information again about healthcare. Where I live in Bakersfield, for instance, the Indian healthcare services are extremely weak, and we have a large population of at-large citizens there who need assistance in this regard. They would have to travel to Porterville, to the Yoket reservation, or to San Diego or elsewhere to get quality healthcare. So that's a problem for them, and then housing health and links to scholarship and just opportunities to create community. Those are the issues that I would want to address first. And I have a plan. I'm not tech savvy, but I have a vision for an online site that incorporates links to all of these things, interactive links to online Cherokee history and culture classes, and I'm hoping that we can involve our first language speakers to become mentors to those of us who would like opportunities to converse. I've been studying Cherokee for a long time, but I don't make much progress because I have no one to practice on. So I would like to practice what I'm learning, and I think that we could, our first language speakers would just be so invaluable to us in that way. And I'd like to involve our Cherokee elders in the same way, to be people we can dialogue with when we have questions about traditional practices and so forth, because where I live anyway, there's so much confusion about what Cherokees do traditionally versus what other Indian nations do. So having these mentors and just gleaning the knowledge from our elders and our first language speakers would be of first and paramount importance to me. And then, of course, I'd have the links state by state for healthcare options, including information about the Affordable Healthcare Act and information about housing. We have tribal assistance to needy families in California that many citizens know nothing about, and they actually provide assistance to people who are in dire circumstances. So having a link to that service, and I'm sure there are other services across the nation for other at-large citizens that are similar to the ones I have found in California. It's just that finding these services takes such a long time, and people don't know where to start. But if we have links to all of these sites available at one location, and links to all of the satellite communities with contact information so that we can interactively engage with one another and have CallNet involved in this and getting their input, I think that would just be an invaluable resource. So, like I said, I'm not tech savvy, but I would like to work on this and get it implemented for all citizens.
Before I start my time on this, I got to hang out with Bruce Ross in Oklahoma and Tahlequah. He was happy and healthy. So top 5 goals. Like I said, I grew up in Jones, Oklahoma in poverty, and so I know what it's like to depend on services, and I also know what it's like to depend on services that aren't provided by the Cherokee Nation government, and which is what most people do at large. And so the idea that I've been discussing with a lot of people is setting up a website that will provide information on healthcare, housing, food-related things that's evolving, that you can see a constant update of what's available. And for the people who don't use the internet, you come to the tribal council representative to discuss the things in your area. So like Phoenix, when I lived up here, I know IHS would give away free produce occasionally. I'm poor, I would come and get that. That's something, I don't know how many people in here know about it, but there's a lot of things like that that happen locally or regionally that are available. I mentioned earlier I grew up sometimes without water. We got water because Pam Fox received a grant that was able to come in and dig a well for us, and that was from the USDA. It wasn't Cherokee Nation that put that in. And there's a lot of things that go on around this area with tribes. This next week, the National American Indian Housing Council is having a conference at Talking Stick. They come here because they know that there's people that need housing assistance. So knowing about these sort of things can make the difference in people's lives. And so that's the first thing that I want to look at. Second thing is protecting the land that we do have within our jurisdiction. I want to submit legislation that zones off culturally relevant, culturally significant areas from development. So there's a lot of development that can happen, and things come in, challenges come across that say, well, I don't want this to get impacted. Okay, well, let's zone it off, and then let's develop somewhere else. And then that's going to help, well, I gotta hurry now. So absolutely promote business diversification. We're providing scholarships for people to go out and get degrees that they can't come back to the nation to work. Doing this, we don't have to develop within the Cherokee Nation. We can invest in other places. I'm a very big proponent for renewable energy development. We can invest in tribes out here, and people out here can get jobs doing that. And some of those are technical jobs that are very, they pay well. Education, last time I was here, I discussed the website that I created, Native Opportunities. A lot of people have visited this, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback. It provides scholarship and internship information for students. And this is important because there's not a whole lot of money, if any money, that goes to at-large students. It goes to within jurisdiction, right around the jurisdictional area. So this is a solution. Find outside money. It's available, it's there, and I'm more than willing to talk to anyone who has a student, a relative that wants to talk about scholarship internships. And one other thing that I would like to talk about is, I think that there does need to be a task force that addresses fake tribes.
Thanks. Tom, you reminded me earlier, I've been told I need to tell my age also. I'm 45 years old. So there we are. I have 3 children, ages 4 and younger, so people think I might be a little younger, but I'm just got a late start on that. Okay, and addressing the question, I came up with an acronym to remember my 5 goals, so I can keep these in mind. My number 1 goal is to meet as many at-large Cherokee citizens as I possibly can during my term in office. And to accomplish this, I think I would be attending almost all of the at-large picnics, but a lot of meetings too. So if I were invited, I would do my best to show up. My second goal would be to greet as, my acronym is MGSIT. So meet as many people as I can, greet by establishing 2-way communication. If someone calls me, I will call them back within 48 hours, 24 hours if I possibly can, and I will answer emails, and I want to establish good 2-way communication. SIT, the S is for sister communities. Pam alluded to inter-community meetings. Well, with our technology today, it is entirely possible to be a sister community with a community that is within the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation, and that's what I would like to see. So you could have regular meetings, and you could have them on FaceTime or on Skype, and the other group could be meeting with you. So you could exchange ideas and experiences, and I think that would really do a lot to help bridge the gap between at-large citizens and the citizens within the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. And we could see some good relatives, because I know everyone has family back there, so, or quite a lot of people do. The I is to investigate program funding to see, does this program run on restricted federal funds where it is only for people who live in the 14 counties, or can this program be opened up to Cherokee Nations who live anywhere? And so I think a lot of those will be cultural programs. I know that the Remember the Removal Bike Ride was opened up to at-large citizens, and I thought that was great. And I'm a former Miss Cherokee, 91, 92, and that's the program that I would start with. So you can get your young ladies ready if I get to be in office. I really plan to see if I can get that opened up to all young ladies across the nation, because there's also scholarships tied to that title. And then the T, the last one is to teach civics. I think to empower a Cherokee citizen is to advance our entire nation. And we need to know, first of all, how our government works. And I think we have a vague idea, but you know, this is the Cherokee Nation government we're talking about. It's not simple. We have the 3 branches of government, but knowing how each of those operates and how they're connected with our businesses, I think we should all have a better idea of how that works. So those are my 5 goals, and you will be able to measure the output by your increased knowledge in these areas that I've mentioned, by getting to how well you get to know me, how familiar I am to you, and probably my children and my husband as well, because if I'm going to be traveling, I'm sure going to be dragging them with me every once in a while. And also, there are other ways to measure this, because in my communication, I want to communicate via email, in person, and also, you know, I really admire what Counselor Coates does currently. She does some YouTube videos, and I have a YouTube video out there if you would like to see it. And so you'll be able to measure it by how much communication comes from me. But I want to also be publishing how much communication is coming to me, because I asked several different council members from the different districts, how often do people contact you? And one district, I was told, oh, you know, about every other day or so, somebody will call me. One person told me that in a whole year, he averages about 2 people calling him, which was really surprising. Another one said, oh, 1 or, you know, maybe 2 or 3 a month, he said. So anyway, I hope to establish great communication with all of you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. Question number 3 is beginning to kind of change the focus of the campuses, and that's how will you deal with issues that large members are experiencing with the Cherokee Nation Community Association, CNCA, and that is the organization within the Cherokee Nation that is to relate to the at-large citizens. In that question, there are a number of different parts. One was the 2 at-large tribal council members are currently in non-voting advisory roles with the Cherokee Nation Community Association. Expand the number of CNCA, Cherokee Nation Community Organization, at-large board members from 2 to 4, and ongoing like communications and support and then the internal organization of the Cherokee Nation Community Association. And for those of you who may not be aware of somewhat of the history of that association, it has been somewhat disorganized, if you will, and it also from time to time has not been an advocate for technical assistance to all preservation, to at-large organizations that we try to put together and get sanctioned. So with that, this is question number 3, and we start with Ben.
Okay, that's going to be a hard question for me to answer. It says the association is controlled by the Cherokee Nation. You might think it's controlled by us, but it's not, because there's a leader appointed for the education. Then there's a group leader appointed for culture, and then I think there's 3 more representatives voted by the at-large, at the association. Now, I've never been to one, so I don't know what the uproar is about expanding the members from 2 to 4. Is that what it says? Yeah, 2 to 4. Well, now, if you do that, what are you going to think the head of the association going to do? He's going or she's going to just at large 2 more leaders, so we're right back where we started from, I think. Ongoing lack of communication and support. Well, who is not getting the information? That's what I don't know. I mean, I've never been to one, but I've talked to a lot of people, and they say, well, it's just disorganized. Well, I don't know if it's disorganized at the meetings or after their meetings. It shouldn't be disorganized if you have Robert's Rule of Order, parliamentary procedure. I got a book over there. I got a new one. I'll give it to somebody if they want to put it in their library. I have the 1999 edition. This is the 11th edition, but it's a good book. But why, I asked myself, why is it internal disorganized? Now, is that disorganized as you're having a meeting? People are out of control and this is not right, or maybe a cat fight or something like that. That's what you have your rule book there for.
Ben, red is you have to go. Yellow, you can still stay for a minute.
Okay, I have a rule book here. So if you have a parliamentarian here in the building or in any of the groups, the book it's composed by famous attorneys. I mean, they all use it. All the CEO meetings, any place that happens. I think Mr. Obama, he may have that book that he's learned from. But anyway, it's a good book, and it should be used at all of these meetings here. But if I don't get to this position that you guys have voted for somebody else, I'm going to go to some of the organizations there, and I'm going to learn a few things. You know, I'm a learner. So anyway, I don't know what else I could say about the organization. Thank you.
Okay, Pam?
So I will propose a change to the current CNA non-voting status for the at-large tribal counselors. We're supposed to be your voice, and it's really hard to represent you if we don't have a vote. The vote is powerful. So of course I would strongly recommend that we be allowed to vote. I will propose an increase in the number of at-large board members. I'm not sure if I would want an even number or an odd number. Sometimes I find odd numbers in situations like that work a little better when it comes to voting. But I do think that the more input we have from others, the better informed we are and the better decision makers we are. So I think that an increase in those numbers is an excellent proposal. I think that improving communication begins with me. So I will set the example if I'm elected, or even if I'm not, to personally respond to anybody who contacts me in whatever way they elect to contact me. But I do believe this interactive website that I propose will facilitate communication so much better. And then the issues involving the organization or disorganization, I need to do some fact finding before I can comment on that, because I need to find out what the underlying problems are before I can even propose any type of remedy.
Tommy?
So the bylaws, CNCA, say that it is meant to assist with language, cultural traditions, civic activities, and fellowship, not control. And the current structure of the board right now is 3 from the Cherokee Nation, 2 at large. And I think that it should be switched to 7. And I think that 4 people should be in control from the satellite communities. And I think with this expense, we're going to see, we don't have equal representation on council. We also don't have equal representation on this entity that's supposed to represent us specifically. It makes sense to change the structure. And with this expansion, best practices have to be looked at. If there's problems with internal disorganization, you can put in things to fix that. And if we're going to have more people from these at-large communities or satellite communities representing us, we know that our voice is going to be heard. We know that the changes that we want to see will come to place. And so this is, I think it's a 2-part process. You change the structure of the council and you look for best practices. With anything, there's going to be some lag time, but if it's important, you're going to work at it. And I think having more representatives on the board from these outside communities is going to achieve that. There was something I wanted to bring up earlier so this is back to a different question since I have some time. One of the things that I've been discussing with people is having a resource at the Cherokee Nation that can address these needs, health, housing, different things for at-large specifically. And I've been talking to people about it. It's like, yeah, we should have some more help there. And then one person said, well, why don't you do it? Why don't you be the person that helps these people? And it makes sense. It makes sense that we're supposed to be elected to represent you. We should put in the work to make sure that the people that we're representing are taken care of. And so that's one of the things I've thought about. And it will take more work, but when you're out here visiting the communities, you're going to get a vested interest in the people that you meet. I feel like I have friends here, and I would want to do the most that I can to make sure that people here are meeting their needs. And so that's my scope. Thanks.
Well, I think we can all agree that the CNCA needs a review. So I've done some thinking about it as well. And I really think that it would be a lot better if, the person who's appointed by the chief, if they were limited to 1 person. And the remaining individuals, I feel like it would be good if we did a nationwide, or, we're at large, we're worldwide. I shouldn't say nationwide, we're worldwide. We did a worldwide nomination process where different groups could nominate people, and we started to narrow them down. If we did it as a good process and we didn't rush it, we're going to get some really good representatives. We need to have some people nominated, and then we need to have like an online vetting process so that people can talk about, they can ask them questions similar to this type of forum, but we do it online because I think we can make great use of our technology to have some online forums so that we could communicate better, but also we can know what's going on. And I would like, if I were elected to tribal council, I would like to have a voting role as well. I'm okay with expanding it. I think that's a fun idea, but I agree with Pam that it might be better to do an odd number, just so that we can have some have a tiebreaker. Excuse me, communication and support. I think that's very important. From my observation from the outside of the CNCA, I will say that I think the internal disorganization and lack of communication and support kind of go together, because I think there's not enough trust among the individuals who comprise the CNCA. And I think if we all had a part in electing who they were, I think that we could cross that bridge, and I think we could have more trust, and that would lead to more communication, and I think the groups would embrace people that they have elected. So those are my ideas for solving those issues with the CNCA, and I have no idea how much time I have left because our timekeeper just had to step out. But I'm willing to keep talking. I love visiting, and I tell you, this has been my favorite part of this campaign, is just to get to meet so many people and to start to see familiar faces at places I go. And I expect next year at National Holiday that I'm gonna see a lot of people, and I have a lot of old friends to greet at the holiday. So anyway, we're going.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So what I find usually when there's a internal struggle in an organization, it's over control. And when I served in the Oklahoma House of Representatives, we always had state representatives from other parts of the state that would come in and try to tell another organization how to run their business. And what we find is local control is usually the best way to really engage the community and for them to care about that organization. One of the best examples is school boards. The worst possible scenario is to have a state legislator come in and tell you how to run your school. And basically what we have here is you have a transition between two political regimes of the previous chief and the current chief, and the disarray that happens when who's in control, who did you support, who did you not support. And what needs to happen is for this organization to do what it's intended to do, and that is to unite, engage, and empower at-large Cherokees to help each other and be more connected with their home. That's what it's for. So what I would do, and what I always did as a legislator, I made sure that I never took away local control from local communities to empower themselves to direct the schools of their business, because it wasn't the job of Oklahoma City to tell Tahlequah how to run their schools. And it's not the job of the Cherokee Nation to control the at-large communities, but rather empower them and to unleash the creative genius that you have right here, and you understand how to respond to your own needs. So yes, expand the board so that the at-large community is in control of their own organization, and also put safeguards into place so that there's never any animosity between Tahlequah and Phoenix, Tahlequah and Tucson, and the rest of the at-large communities. Inoculate it from politics. And one of the ways to inoculate it from politics is to empower your local community. Get registered. Make sure your kids are registered. Call your aunts and uncles who aren't registered. Get them empowered, because I guarantee you, Tahlequah wouldn't dare mess with an organization that is empowering and blessing the people in the diaspora if they thought they would lose their race as a result of that tampering. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, question number 4. Probably needs a bit of explaining. So let me read the question first. How important is it to have an established coast-to-coast communication system for the at-large population of Cherokee citizens? How will you support and utilize CallNet, Cherokee at-large leadership network? Approximately going on 4 years now, the organizations, the at-large organizations, have been working to become a network of Cherokees across the country. There's, as I said earlier, there's approximately 22 Cherokee at-large organizations throughout the country. And one of our members here, Tanya Armendariz, took on the responsibility of finding ways to unite the different organizations around the country. And it resulted in a nonprofit organization called the At-Large Cherokee At-Large Leadership Network, and it's just in short called CallNet, Cherokee At-Large Leadership Network. And recently, starting in the first part of this year, they attempted to put together debates between the candidates for chief, and were successful in getting one in Pomona, California. However, not all of the candidates showed up or wanted to be there. But I think what it is establishing is that we are beginning to find ways to have our voice heard, and I think it's really an important move for us. Heretofore, we've not had that opportunity, and some of the organizations, along with Ms. Armendariz, have put together a CallNet, and I think it'll take a bit for the leadership and officials at home to begin to realize that it's something that they will need to recognize and become familiar with, and then also work with organizations like CallNet. So how important is it to have an established coast-to-coast communication system for the at-large population of Cherokees, and how you support and utilize CallNet for that purpose? And this is question number 3. I'm sorry, 4. And we start with Pam.
So I obviously believe that having a coast-to-coast communication system is of critical importance, and for all of the reasons I've already discussed. So I support CallNet, and I will continue to do so by participating in their events and by encouraging others to participate, by contributing in any way that they ask me to contribute, and by including them in the development of their website. I think they'll be very integral to that process. I'm looking forward to working with them and for hearing what they have to say.
Tommy?
I think CallNet's incredible. Great idea. And I mean, it'll make tribal council, at-large councilors' jobs a lot easier to be a part of this, because it is a pulse of everyone across the United States. And so I think it's critical for any at-large candidate, whoever gets elected, to be connected with CallNet, because I mean, it's a nationwide thing where you can just hear what everyone has to say. And what was brought up earlier is, that there's so many at-large that really this is even a question that the chief should be involved with. I mean, there's so many people that can swing a vote. That this is, I think CallNet, this grassroots idea is just admirable, and I'm really happy to see it there. I've already I was actually asked a similar question to this online. I immediately just tagged CallNet Facebook page and said, I'm reaching out to you now, because I could see CallNet helping me, and I see its value, and I can't say it enough. I'm really happy that it exists, and I've got to meet a few people that are part of it, and they're really nice too, so they're going to be easy to work with for whoever gets elected. So thank you.
Tommy? Oh, I'm sorry.
You want me to repeat?
Didn't check you off. Debbie?
I also have had positive experience with CallNet, and I feel like we need to fund it, we need to use it, and we need to promote it. If I'm a tribal counselor, I will be pushing for baseline funding of CallNet. I know that there are expenses, and I think that they could, if we funded them, think about what we could do. I mean, that would be tremendous. Use it. I have used it. I've referred to it many times. That's a great website out there. Great resource for me as an at-large citizen and as a candidate for tribal council. And I will be contacting people on it for advice at appropriate times, and hoping to get some feedback, because I couldn't be just a tribal counselor who's out there doing whatever. I have to be engaged. I have to hear back. I need to know what's going on, and I think CallNet is the key to that. Right now, that's where I see the key, CallNet. And then promote it. You know, I plan to be meeting as many citizens as I can, and I will engage and try to promote CallNet to other at-large citizens, because that will only increase its effectiveness. And so, if you didn't understand that, I am very positive about CallNet and glad that it exists. Thank you.
Shane?
Thank you, sir. So I discovered CallNet existed once I threw my hat in the ring, and someone reached out to me and said, you got to try, it was Jack Baker, Councilman Baker, that you got to look into CallNet. And it was a wonderful resource. And my first question was, what is CallNet? First, I thought it might be like a telephone system where you could call and get discounted rate to talk to Cherokees. It is not that. And then my second question was, why didn't I know about this sooner? And why didn't more Cherokees know about this? Because it's an incredible resource. I would say a cautionary note, depending on who gets elected, be sure that when we're funding, what we find from Washington, D.C. is that when they fund something, they also want to control it. And so I'd urge whoever gets elected to make sure that it stays autonomous, it represents the diaspora, it represents the at-large community, and it's not just an arm of Cherokee Nation. Now, having said that, I've been very clear about how I feel about the at-large community. I am not endorsed by any candidate. I'm not aligned with any chief candidate. I want to represent this community and the Tecumseh community and the LA community and the Washington, D.C. community. I've been very careful not to be aligned, and people are asking if I am aligned. I am not. If I'm elected, I will represent you. I'll empower CallNet to be autonomous and represent you and empower Cherokees everywhere. I only want to owe my allegiance to the people who elect me, and I'm not aligned with any other candidate. I'm an independent voice for you, and CallNet is a wonderful resource.
Ben?
I think any form of communication that each and every person can know as soon as possible, no matter where he or she or where they are located, from Maine, California, from the bottom of the Cherokee Nation to the coast, from top of the districts, Kansas, Missouri, and North Dakota, but from up to Canada. Now how we're going to do that, I'll help. I'll help. I don't know how it's going to be done, but I'll help. I'll find out a way. But I'd like to know what's the difference than Facebook. Everybody from yonder to hinder to above and to below. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, use both of them, you know. But I don't know how to use Facebook. I had never joined or anything, you know. I don't, you know, my daughter, she'll get hostile to me and she'll go in there and my mail. So, you know, I had to write her a letter. So maybe that's what CallNet is. We have to write her a letter and for everybody. So any form of communication that each and every one of us gets a hold of, it's great. You know, we need it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Question number 5. If elected, how would you address the inequity and restrictions placed on at-large tribal council representatives? And then it has some sub-questions. Access to Cherokee Nation resources and personnel support. Residential requirements imposed on at-large council citizens, members, representing 2/3 of the Cherokee citizens outside of the districts. Let me do that again. Residency requirements imposed on at-large council members, representing 2/3 of the Cherokee citizens that live outside the districts. Limited travel budgets for at-large council members, representing 2/3 of the Cherokee citizens, as opposed to increased travel budgets for the in-district council members. So with this last question, we'll start with Tommy.
Save the most complicated for the last. Like anything, you need to discuss the merits of change. And I think the first thing that stands out to me is that 2/3 of people live outside of the jurisdictional area. So if we're not able to go and meet our constituents, that if at-large council members aren't allowed to go, or don't have the funds to meet their constituents, then something needs to change. There is a great disparity between how far someone needs to travel within district versus at large. And so it's something that you had to bring up. And saying that I will get that done is one thing, but saying I'll fight for it is another. And so I think the more that these satellite groups are being heard through things like Collett, the more importance, more value people are going to start recognizing that these communities have. And I think that it'll be a slow change, but eventually there may be more funds available for at-large counselors in particular to travel around. And I think once there's more focus on the chief race that looks at-large votes, that's going to put a little more pressure on this as well. Let's see, residency requirements. That's something that for at-large, if we get elected and we're at-large, that means we could never run for chief. And what if we did an amazing job on council, everyone loved us, we couldn't run for chief, we'd have to stop being counselor, go back and live in Oklahoma within a jurisdictional area for almost a year, which doesn't sound bad because Oklahoma's nice. Despite the allergies I get apparently. But, that's a reality. And so those are kind of things that I think separate people who live within jurisdiction from at large. And I know it makes me sometimes feel like a second-class citizen. And that's something that you have to fight against. It's not something that happens overnight, but like with any right, any civil right, it takes time and persistence. And one day, we may be standing up here holding the power, who knows. But I think some of these things can be addressed. Definitely not happening overnight, but it takes people, and one of us, if we get on council, talking the merits about why this is important to the other tribal council members, then we may be able to get something accomplished. So that's my take on it. Is there anything that I've missed from this? Access to Cherokee Nation resources and personnel support. We're going to be going back for council meetings, so we're going to be going to visit with people there, and I think you can form a relationship doing that. There's a lot of things that are available for in jurisdiction that aren't available for out of jurisdiction, and that's just one of the things that we may have to deal with because of our low vote on council. But finding solutions for the things that we want doesn't have to come from the Cherokee Nation. It can come from groups coming together and seeing the change that they want.
Deb?
When I read each of these issues that were outlined, it just reminded me that Cherokee Nation has a negative corporate culture that needs to change. And I think these are symptoms of that negative corporate culture. I'm calling it a corporate culture because it seems like people are acting a certain way, and that's just how they do. And we have to change that, because I tell you what, it is from the top down. I worked at the businesses owned by the Cherokee Nation for 7.5 years. And if I'm on tribal council, I'm going to have to draw from that experience because I had to maintain a positive demeanor. I strove very hard to maintain a positive demeanor in the face of unyielding hostility a lot of times. So I know what I already have experience doing that. I have trained for this. And I am ready and willing and capable of putting in the work it's going to take to build trusting and cooperative relationships with people who work in the government of the Cherokee Nation. Because I'm not going to settle for less. And if people just won't give and this negativity continues, well, I will use my skills as an attorney and I will draft creative legislation so that we will have a win-win situation on both sides of an argument. Because I think the compromise is always there. And I've seen on our current tribal council that people have, they voted one way or another, just sometimes it seems like just because they didn't like the person who proposed the idea. And you know what? I don't care who proposes it. If it's an idea that can benefit the Cherokee Nation, let's do it. I mean, we gotta get behind it. I don't care who proposed it. If it's a good idea, let's do it. I don't like this taking sides. We're all Cherokee people here. You know, we are all citizens, and I really would like to get to the point one day where I feel like, you know, I don't have to worry about that person talking bad about me behind my back because they're Cherokee. They've got my back. You know, I think it's great. And that's what I would like to see, and that's what I would like to help build. And, you know, I think that I've run into people saying, yeah, well, you can say that, but I said, you know what, I know it's not easy, but we have to have what I call the world peace mentality. We will never have a perfect Cherokee Nation. We all know that, but we cannot stop trying. We cannot give up. We have to keep trying to bring more positivity, because when we lift up one of our citizens, when one of our citizens achieves something, it raises all of us up. And we need to remember that so that we can praise one another. When we do a good job, when someone is honored, we need to get behind that and think their achievement is an achievement for all of us. So there's my bit of positive speech, and I really hope that we can do something together to change the corporate culture of our government. Thank you.
Dave?
Thank you, sir. So the inequities of the prohibition for someone who lives outside of 14 counties not to run for chief would be like saying if you live in Washington, D.C., if you do not live in Washington, D.C., you cannot run for president. It is immoral. Barack Obama lived in Chicago, and then he moved to the White House once elected. And every other president lived somewhere else before they moved to represent the people. A residency requirement? Absolutely. If you're elected chief as a Cherokee by the people of the Cherokee Nation, then you should move to Tahlequah and run the country. That's what it should be. But this bifurcation between the haves and the have-nots, that you live outside the 14 counties and you can't be chief, is immoral. Absolutely immoral. I would work to reverse that. Again, we only have 2 votes to represent 2/3 of the Cherokee Nation. And what I find is that whenever politicians feel the heat, that's when they start seeing the light. And what we have to do is make sure we engage with Tahlequah. We're not at war with them. We just want to remind them that the rest of the Cherokees care very much about the direction of the nation, care very much about the equitable distribution of resources, and we don't want to go back to per caps. Per caps is a cancer that destroys Native American tribes. I can show you example after example. We've moved forward as a forward-thinking, progressive people that want what's best for our communities. And the way to get there is by treating people with equity, dignity, and respect. And disallowing the at-large community to participate in their government and their country and their tribe is, again, immoral. And what I will do is try to forge relationships, because I worked for 6 years in Oklahoma House of Representatives. I worked across party lines. I didn't care how you were registered. How can we move Oklahoma forward was the question I asked. I don't care which chief you supported or which chief you are. If you're moving the Cherokee Nation, and I mean all of the Cherokee Nation forward, and you care about all the successes of all the Cherokees, whether I'm in the United States Navy, I'm an intelligence officer, and we're getting ready to honor a Navy officer who is in Australia, guess what? He has every right to run for chief. He's serving our country, but he's also a member of this country, the Cherokee Nation, and that's what we need to do. Unify, register to vote, engage, turn up the heat, and they'll see the light.
Ben?
Thank you. Has anybody, do you carry a copy of your charter? You know what your charter reads like? If we start rattling chains out there, mediation, it's good to get your charter taken away. But if we do it in an orderly manner, how can they do that? Should you call it unconstitutional? If we do something in an orderly manner and by vote? I'm for everything to make, I want to get off this boil that I've been sitting on for so many years. I want to get this thorn out of my foot. I want to be treated just like everybody else at home. Cherokee Nation's my home. Delaporte's my home. But anyway, that's all I can say about that. But until somebody needs to do some real research on if this is really legal or not. I don't know. If we get to rather change about the charters, get too strong, they're going to jerk it. I think. Now I'm not an attorney. I'm a farmer. I'm a gentleman farmer. But I'll do anything to help. Should any one of these other ladies or gentlemen here get this lot, I'd be more than willing to help. All they got to do is call me. I think they know where I live. Thanks.
And Ben.
So I want to preface it first with, I too have worked in hostile environments. I've served on several boards, and one of them was a board for a private Christian school. And it certainly was challenging to try to get people to come to consensus in that environment. But that is obviously the goal in many circumstances. We want to achieve at least consensus. And I learned from those experiences that building bridges through communication and through really listening to others, hearing what they have to say and thinking about it in a serious way, and then addressing it as though it's a serious issue, you can begin to build these bridges. And so I see this environment, these situations that we have to operate in, not as inimical to what we want to do, not as though I'm facing enemies, but just as though I have to build bridges with these people to understand why they think this way. I think civil discourse is the first step. I want to talk to the other tribal council members and find out why they believe that it's acceptable to treat at-large tribal council representatives in this unequal way, unequal situation with inequities and restrictions. The residency requirements, we just saw, for instance, with Julia, the huge disparity between interpretations that can occur in that kind of situation. So certainly there's not clarity with regard to her situation. I think that not being allowed to run for chief is not only immoral, but it's a violation of our rights as citizens of the Cherokee Nation. We're equal, or we should be equal, and we should therefore have equal access to all of the positions if we are qualified. So I'd like to find out why they think this way and why they aren't open to considering the possibility of having an at-large citizen run for that position. Because we really just want what's best for our nation. None of us want to do anything harmful to the nation. The limited travel budget is certainly an issue. It absolutely makes no sense to me that why we would have less money for traveling than do people who live in district. Certainly we have to cover large areas, and if I were elected, I'd have to travel from Bakersfield, California to Oklahoma frequently to attend the meetings. And so that's quite costly, and there's zero logic as far as I can tell behind having differences in the travel budget. So I want to talk to these people and find out what the premises are that underlie why they've made these restrictions and inequities, and then maybe I can do something about addressing them and fighting for parity.
Well, thank you, candidates. I'd like to give them another hand, please. Before we start with the questions out of the basket there, we want to take a little break and do a couple of housekeeping things. First off, I want to announce the officers that were elected to the Valley of the Sun Cherokees. Co-chair now will be Janell, Sixkiller. I know that lady. Treasurer is Collett. Assistant Treasurer is Laurie Eldridge. Secretary is Pam Hayes. And Membership Secretary is Susan Rubel. Our organization is in good hands. And Ron has some rifles he wants to start, and once we get